Hello back and welcome to the TBR shelf tag. I've done this tag about 11 to 12 months ago, so I thought it was time to revisit, given that last time I did that tag I had 21 physical books on my TBR and now I have 5. So this seemed like a moment to capture in time. 5 physical TBR books is insane to me. Diving right into question 1, it says, how do you keep track of your TBR pile? Pretty simply on my to be read cart. But then aside from that, it's kind of just chaos. So I've got Goodreads that I track things on. I've also got random wish lists on like Booktopia and Dimmix that I keep track of. I've also got many holds on Libby. And then aside from those, I've just got a Kindle started up again. So I've got some ebooks on that as well. So they're in various places. And that's why even though I said a monthly TBR, sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to read for the vibes and I just cherry pick which one I'm going to dip into. And I guess that leads me very nicely into question 2, which is your TBR mostly print or ebook? And I would say it's mostly print at the moment. Also, a new library opened and I'm looking forward to going there and reserving physical books because I really struggle reading ebooks on Libby. I think I mentioned in a previous video that I could use Libby and my Kindle together, but apparently that's only for Americans. What is that? That is discrimination. So I need to get books physically, I think. And, you know, that library is going to be a world of help because, you know, new homeowners, it's kind of insane with the cost of living right now. Like, I would love to go out and buy books, but I just can't. So to scratch that itch, the library will help. But I do have a few books on my Kindle as well. I've got like 4 or 5 on there, and that kind of rivals the 5 I've got left on my physical TBR. So, you know, we're breaking even right now. Question 3 is, how do you determine what book from your TBR to read next? And if I knew this, I wouldn't be in constant turmoil. I'm only partly joking. Sometimes I look at the different releases coming up. Like, for example, in April, we've got Court of Wanderers coming out, and that is by Rincha Pecco, and it's a sequel. So I would look ahead at that release and go, oh, I want to reread the first book before that comes out. So that would help me navigate my TBR plans sometimes, but not all the time. I did say that I wanted to do a reread of The Way of Kings and then a reread of Robin Hobb, and I haven't started either of them. So the want is there, but the time is different. So sometimes I just look at what I've got and I think, am I in the mood for that? And then I just pick it. Even though I've got a rough plan, sometimes I pick stuff that I've already set aside as that month's TBR, and other times I'm like, I need to go off the plan because if I try and force myself to stick with the plan, my mood isn't gelling with it, and then I'll get into a slump, and I don't want to get into a slump. So I kind of just mix and match to my heart's desire, which is not a very logical way to choose my next read, but here we are. Question 4 is, what book has been on your TBR the longest? And I would say The Fragile Threads of Power. I've been meaning to read this since it released, and I just haven't gotten around to it. I even reread the whole trilogy and I did a recap so I'd remember everything and I was refreshed. And now it's been so long that I think I need to watch my own recap before I even start this book, which is nuts to me. So I got this at Christmas and it's already now like 5 months later, 4 months later. Apparently I can't count. And so I think it's coming up time to start this. I'm partly nervous about it because I didn't love the initial trilogy as much as I thought I did. It definitely differed on enjoyment level from my first read. So I think that's made me a little bit anxious about starting this one because I'm like, am I going to like what is going on or am I going to not like it? And I think in this case, starting it is going to answer those questions for me. So I just need to start it and then I'll know. I also recently did a attempting to read my TBR cart vlog where I addressed some books that had been sitting on my cart for a little bit of time, and I was like, am I actually going to enjoy these? And I had some successes and some misses in that vlog. So I intend to do those vlogs in a fairly semi-regular basis so that I can reassess what I've got. And if I don't get to this soon, it's probably going to go in one of those vlogs, just so I can hold myself accountable, really. Question 5 is, name a book that you have recently added to your TBR. And I have seen so much hype about this book, and it's The Will of the Many by James Islington. Don't know how to pronounce his surname. I know how to spell it though. And this one is a Roman-inspired fantasy. And I've been seeing people rave about it so often that I'm like, okay, fine, you've got me. I've got the ebook. I'm going to do it. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. Because I read the first book in his Lycanus trilogy. I think that's how you say it. Again, pronunciation, this author, not my thing. And I only liked that book. I found it quite tedious to get through. It felt like he was trying to imitate Brandon Sanderson's writing style. And because it was his debut and he was tackling this massive epic fantasy, it just wasn't serving me very well. So I did finish that because way back in the day when I was writing my blog, I got that from a publisher for review. So I was like, okay, I'll read it. I slogged through it. And now I'm like, oh, Am I going to slog through this one as well? Or am I going to enjoy it? It's been a fair bit of time, so hopefully his writing has developed since then. And a lot of people I've seen loving it, like giving it 5 stars, and they have similar reading taste to me. So hopefully that means I'll end up enjoying it. I've also added a dragon book to my TBR, and that is Dragonfall, and I don't know anything about this one except the title, and that's kind of chaotic. I don't usually do that, but I've got it on ebook, so like The Will of the Many, maybe I'll like this one too. I don't know. It's ebook. When will I get to it? Because if it's not physically in front of me, I tend to forget that it's there. So maybe one day I'll pick up my ebook and go, oh yeah, I've got that book, don't I? And then just start it. Again, the whole vibes and mood reading thing is really going to serve me well when it comes to my Kindle, I think. Then we've got question 6, which is name a book that is on your TBR just because of its pretty cover. I've got 2, and I've seen these around a lot, and I have looked into the synopses, so I feel like it's not just the cover, but the cover is definitely what enticed me to look into them. So Dragons of Deepwood Fen is one of them, and then A Tempest of Tea and Blood is the other. Both of these have been doing the rounds lately. I think they're fairly new releases too. I'm looking forward to trying them out at some point. They both seem like high fantasy and vampires, which is Tempest of Tea and Blood, and then also dragon riders and fantasy and magic and conspiracy in Dragons of Deepwood Fen. Both of those have enticing buzzwords as well as enticing covers. Then question 7 is name a book on your TBR that you never plan on reading. Maybe in the past I would be like that, but I'm trying to be a bit more self-aware. Like I'm trying to hold myself accountable, which I did in that recent reading vlog that I talked about earlier, the attempting to read my TBR or get to 0 TBR, which might actually be possible given that I've only got 5 left. But all of the books that are currently on my TBR are books that I plan to get to in the next couple of months. So at least I'm trying to hold them in the forefront of my mind and go, I need to read these. It's not like I'm going to let them lapse for years and years and years. Maybe if I had like 50 plus books on my TBR, I'd let them lapse because, you know, mood reading is a thing. But because I've got such a small TBR, I think it's a bit easier to do in a couple of months. Question 8 is name an unpublished book on your to be read pile that you are very excited for. And I actually just filmed a more anticipated releases video. For this video, I will list a couple, and one of them is Court of Wanderers, which is like my most anticipated release of all time. Yes, more so than Stormlight 5, which is like shock horror. This one is coming out beginning of April, and I don't think I'm going to be okay because it is a duology, not a trilogy like I thought, and it's going to end a lot sooner than I thought, and I'm not coping, okay? So Court of Wanderers, and then we've also got The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, which is another urban fantasy by her, like dark academia vibe as well. So I'm looking forward to more of her grotesque, gruesome fantasy. I wish it was the sequel to Hellbent, but you know, maybe she's writing that, who knows. And then I've also got a few others. So Brother Song as well, which comes out at the end of July. I, again, like the Court of Wanderers book, don't think I'm going to be okay. Like I'll just be recovering from Court of Wanderers, and then end of July is going to hit and I'm going to be smacked with Brother Song, and I'm just going to be completely inconsolable after both of those. Question 9 is a book that you feel like everyone has read but you. And I would definitely go with Robert Jackson Bennett for this question or this answer, because he seems like he has done the rounds so often, especially on Reddit and just in comments and everything. I feel like I'm so late to the party with these books, but I am looking forward to my journey nonetheless. I am keen to read his sci-fi fantasy blends of books. They are so good. Well, at least City of Stairs was good because I gave it 5 stars. So I'm hoping that those will be like 4 or 5 stars as well. Question 10 is a book that someone consistently recommends to you, and I don't necessarily get consistent recommendations. I get a lot of random ones through my comments, which I tend to track on my Goodreads. I've got a special TBR channel Rex on my Goodreads, so if you do have a recommendation, let me know and I'll add it to that list. The most consistent recommendation would be probably my friend Marie, so hello, I know you're watching. But she recommended Woolsong to me, and obviously it's become my one true love. So that and Silver Under Nightfall, she's had some fantastic recommendations for me. So I think I would put Marie as an answer to this question because the most consistent recommendations have come from her, only because she has badgered me this whole time. So if you want me to read something, let me know in the comments, like badger me, and I guess I'll be forced to look into it. Then question 11 is name a book on your TBR that you are dying to read. Believe it or not, I'm actually dying to get back to my reread of Robin Hobb, but because of a lot of life things at the moment, I just don't have time to sit down and read her. And it's actually killing me inside. Like, I want to continue reading this I love this so much. It is a reread and I just love Robin Hobb, but I haven't made time. I don't have time. Any time that I do make, I listen to an audiobook because I'm probably cleaning or doing gardening or something around the house, and I don't like the audiobooks for Robin Hobb's series, so I can't listen to them while I do other stuff. So it really limits me on when I can actually read, especially when I've got other to be read books as well that are new to me that I want to get through. How do I read this? I don't know. And then question 12, how many books are on your TBR? And I kind of answered this at the beginning of the video where I said 5 books versus 11 or 12 months ago when I had 21. So I've done pretty well, honestly. I used to have like 120 something books or even more than that on my to be read pile, and I managed to cull everything down. And sometimes I look at my small to be read pile and I get stressed because I'm like, my mood is not matching these, but I've got to remember that I've got Libby and I've got ebooks, so I've got actually more that is what I can see, so I don't need to worry. It'll be okay. I'm sure that when I'm like, I need to listen to a new audiobook, something will come up on Libby, or I'll just look at all of my catalogue on Audible because I've got over 100 titles on there. I can do a reread. It'll be fine. I don't need to stress. That said though, I am craving a book haul. I just can't go out and do it. So there ends my current to be read shelf tag. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you feel like it. I will chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.